Hey everybody, today we're going to be answering your March food plot questions. Now I understand it's April 5th, but we've been backed up here at the shop. We just got back from a little trip down south and we're just trying to play catch up. So we're going to answer your March food plot questions today. Now these are questions that came in from rookie food plotters, first time food plotters, all the way up to veteran food plotters. We've got these questions in the comments in our YouTube videos. These are also from our email address for questions, asknorthwoods@gmail.com, and just maybe customers calling up and contacting us with questions. We've got a really unique question at the end that I thought we wanted to talk about that I think a lot of people throughout the country see, and we want to talk about how we deal with it up here. So, March food plot questions. Number one, what's our favorite? Rye or wheat for food plot plantings? Now, I think that answer could vary from the northern part of the country to the southern part of the country. A lot of folks say Kansas, North Texas, and maybe Oklahoma, Arkansas. I've got a lot of customers down there. They really like winter wheat shooting plots, food plots. Now, we were down northern Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and driving through those parts of the country, it reminded me exactly of driving through central to northern Michigan. A lot of pine trees, a lot of sandy soil. It looked exactly the same, albeit the climate's different. The soil type, soil quality is the same. I really like cereal rye. I like cereal rye in the northern half of the country, especially for time frame like right now when the deer are coming out of that hard winter and they need something green. They need something green quickly. It's amazing. I saw a lot of rye plots down south and that stuff was 6-7 inches tall. Really happy. That's great food, albeit they don't get the winters down there that we get up here. We still have snow on half our food plots, but what is not covered is cereal rye, and it's greening up quickly. I like cereal rye for a fall attraction. I like cereal rye for it's staying green in December up here in the cold climate. I like cereal rye in the spring right now, coming off of winter. It's the first thing to green up. Cereal rye is very easy to grow with very little input needed, albeit you can add some nitrogen. And one of the biggest things I like cereal rye from Florida all the way up to Canada, Maine to Oregon, is that organic matter quality with the massive root system below the ground as well as the crop residue above the ground. I just think cereal rye, it's got such a better overall contribution to the health of both the whitetail and the soil that the whitetails are living on. I just like cereal rye a lot better than winter wheat. Number two, can I plant cereal rye and brassica together at the same time in the same food plot? I don't like to see that. I don't recommend it. We've tried it a few times with very little results. If you plant rye at the 75 to 100 pounds an acre, that's pretty thick. It's going to be very aggressive. It could choke the brassica out. Now, if you plant our sweet feast, we were talking about that the other day in the brassica sugar beet video, sweet feast is going to canopy rather quickly and it could inhibit the rye doing what you want it to do. I don't recommend planting them at the same time in the same food plot. However, if you plant brassica, and I'm just going to use our time frame here in Michigan, if you plant brassica late July, early August, and then we've got a really nice kale component, very attractive early for deer. We like to see deer get on this early October, but if I see mid to late September browse pressure already and that canopy starts to deplete to where I can start to see ground, I don't know if this plot's going to make it all the way till Christmas, late season. We'll start to add rye probably last week of September, early October, pending some rain. We want to get some more green food in there if I think they're going to eat this brassica plot and it's not going to be there for late season hunting. We'll still have a green component. The other reason I would add rye to a brassica plot that is growing, again, if I start to see the canopy being removed by the deer, that means they're eating the leaves, I might add some rye, not so much for the fall food plot component, but right now, I'm going to add some more rye to my brassica if I can get some sunlight to this rye, and the rye is going to grow and it's going to come back next spring and the deer, again, right now coming off a hard winter, there's going to be some food there. There's not much in that food plot right now where brassicas were planted last year. There really isn't anything growing. But if I can get some rye in there later on, 5, 6, 7 weeks after that brassica is growing, I won't mind dropping some rye, but the deer are going to see that rye right now, early spring. All right, staying on brassica, we get asked a lot. I see it on social media. Deer won't eat my brassica. Why is that? I saw that, there's a couple of lines of thought. I saw that in northeast Wisconsin, Big Egg area, farm we were working on. Deer wouldn't eat the brassica. We grew some beautiful brassica plants, and they didn't eat the brassica until early to mid-December. And then they found it, they really hit it hard. Spoiled deer. They had alfalfa, they had beans, they had corn, they had everything a whitetail could want. So they were eating it as a green food component, and we really banked a lot of food in that brassica plot, but they weren't on it very hard in October. They weren't on it very hard in November. Again, there was a lot of the typical egg crops for these deer. So in that situation, what I would do is I would add probably 50 pounds of soybeans. If you're in an egg area, deer aren't really interested in your brassica yet, I would probably add 50 pounds of soybeans to that per acre to that brassica planting. Now, if you're in a bigger woods area and you're still having trouble with deer not getting on your brassica right away, they just simply ignore it, I would add maybe 50 pounds of peas and maybe some beans to that planting. So you might have to add a green candy crop to your brassicas to get that process started. Excuse me. Now, one of the things, I have a theory, is that your soil isn't correct. And if you think about everything here at Northwoods on our shelf that we sell, the most finicky, the highest use of nutrients, the planting that takes the most nutrients is brassica. So when we do a soil test every year, usually it's going to be where the brassicas are growing, and I think you need to get your pH as close to 7 as possible. You need to get your nutrients correct, follow what the soil test recommends, follow our fertilization recommendations, and I think that's going to make a big difference. If you under-fertilize these brassicas, they seem to run out of nutrients right about the time deer season starts, archery season. Early to mid-October, they've been growing 6, 7 weeks here in Michigan. They start to get stunted. The leaves start to lose their color, that bright green color. And I just think that affects the taste. I can't prove that, but that's my theory, that the further away you are with your nutrients, I believe it affects the taste of the brassica. Now, I've never seen anybody, I can't prove that scientifically. That's just a theory I have, and I just have never seen anything that makes me think otherwise. So that's my thought. Get your nutrients right. I think it's going to really help the attractiveness and the quality of your brassica plantings. Again, staying on brassica, how many years in a row should or can I plant brassica in a food plot? Now, what these people are talking about is, let's say they have a half-acre food plot, and every year all they want to do is plant brassica. For some reason, they just want brassica in that food plot. Now, what I tell them, if you're just going to plant brassica and then not do anything, and then spray Roundup in July, come back, work the ground up, add your fertilizer, and do brassica again, I wouldn't do it more than 2 years in a row, because there's a fungus, there's pests in the ground that can affect the brassica. I've seen it 3 years in a row. The third year, the brassica plot looked really bad. So if you're going to do a spring planted soil building green manure plow down crop to kind of break that cycle up, maybe 3 years in a row, possibly 4 years in a row you can get out of it. I wouldn't go much more than that. Now, I always tell folks I like diversity in my food plots. I like crop rotations. I like brassica here, cereal grains here, and then the following year brassicas here, cereal grains here. I like that rotation. We'll get into that in a couple of weeks in our 3-strip planting video. But again, if you're just going to do straight brassicas, which I don't really recommend, if you're going to do that, 2 years at the most, if you don't have anything in between brassica plantings, 3, possibly 4 if you're going to do a plow down in between brassica plantings in the summer and spring. Number 5, can I seed anything into my clover in the fall to increase the production of my food plot? I really don't like doing that. About the only thing I've seen that actually worked was cereal rye because it grows so fast, but it's going to be a timing thing. You need rain right away to get that rye growing to outcompete that clover. A lot of folks asked if I can seed brassica into the clover. I don't like doing that. I think it's a waste to seed. I don't think brassicas and clovers belong planted together. If you think about it, brassica needs a lot of nutrients, so does clover. You know, the only way I can see clover getting killed is 2,4-D. Well, now you're limited to what you can plant. If I'm going to do anything, I'm tilling that clover up. Some of it's going to come back, but we're tilling it. So I don't see Roundup. Clover's not Roundup ready, but a lot of the clovers I've tried multiple times spraying Roundup and seeding brassicas into it. It just didn't work. That clover came back, and now they're both fighting for the same nutrients. You know, if you want to do clover with something to boost your food plot production, about the only thing I think would work is cereal rye. So I really don't like seeing brassicas and clovers planted together. They just fight each other rather than complement each other. Now this one was a unique question, and I know a lot of folks deal with this, pigweed. We don't spray, we do not plant Roundup Ready corn. We do not plant Roundup Ready beans on any of the properties we're working with currently. That could change, but talking with a lot of folks, pigweed seems to be Roundup Ready resistant. It seems to be resistant to Roundup. So if you look at the video we did with our roller crimper when we took it for a trial run, what we did there was a strip in our food plot back here. We had pigweed all of a sudden. And what we ended up doing was planting an all-grass soil builder. It was cereal rye, it was oats, and it was sorghum. Now, the theory behind that is we could get this grass growing, grass family plants, and spray 2,4-D. And we did a couple of sprayings. We did it by hand, and we did 2,4-D, I think, twice. And it really set the pigweed back to where it was a very clean food plot. Now, what our intention was to crimp this rye, oats, and sorghum, and it worked great. It crimped really well, and then we were going to come in with a grain drill and drill our fall forage radishes and red clover products. But we've got a lot of clay here, and it just wouldn't penetrate the ground. There was not a lot of rain to where I thought just a no-till where we broadcast and crimp into it. I just think that wasn't going to work. So what we ended up doing was a light till of that product, that grass soil builder product, and then we ended up drilling into that, and it worked quite well. We had a little bit of the pigweed came back because we stirred up the ground, but we got ahead of it to where it's not getting out of hand. We can probably deal with it again this year. But if you have a pigweed problem, you're going to probably have to stop planting broadleafs and do a grass soil builder, like I said, rye, oats, wheat, maybe some sorghum, something like that, to where you can spray 2,4-D. Now, if you're going to plant broadleafs for your fall food plot, you're going to have to watch the timing of the last spraying. But that's how we dealt with pigweed over here, and it seemed to work quite well. We're starting to get a handle on it. So that's what we ended up doing. I hope this helps a lot of people. I know, like I said, we had rookies asking questions, we had veterans asking questions, and everybody in between. I hope that helps. I thank everybody who asked questions. If you've got questions, you can ask them in the comments below, or any one of our videos, ask in the comments below. You can text us, message us, email us. Again, asknorthwoods@gmail.com. We take a lot of questions there, and then we'll have those questions up in our April food plot video. So that's coming up fairly quickly, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully we can answer your questions. Thanks for taking part. Thanks for helping the channel grow, folks, and we'll see you in a few days.